When you're creating a clothing line nowadays, it's easy to find inspiration online. We go to social media, we go to Pinterest, and we'll find inspiration there. But sometimes we need to depart from the internet and find other ways to find inspiration. Today, I'm going to give you some of my suggestions on where are the best places to get inspiration from to help you in your creations for your designs. So let's discuss. Next, here I'm Making the Brand. What's up, everybody? Rob Norman here from Planet Brooklyn Academy, and this is Making the Brand, the series where I give you a little bit of knowledge and insight on how to start a clothing line, and if you already have one, how to make it better. As always, please hit that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with everything we drop when it drops. So when being inspired to create a clothing line, we're always looking online for our different ways to be inspired by, And the thing is that the internet is great and all, but we have to look beyond that to be inspired. The thing with the internet is that if I'm designing my streetwear line, say men's streetwear, and you're designing a men's streetwear line, and we're both looking online, eventually we're all going to see the same thing because the algorithm will start feeding the same images to each other, to both of us. And the thing is that we're not being as creative as we can be because what happens is we all end up putting out similar designs. And that's what's happening in the market a lot now. You're seeing a lot of people doing similar graphics, similar designs of clothing, all because everybody's researching what they see online. So to get beyond that, we need to look at other ways to find inspiration that the internet doesn't always capture. So my first place that I recommend if you want to go beyond the internet and get inspiration, the first place I always recommend is people watching. People watching is the most amazing way to find inspiration. First of all, it doesn't matter where you go. You can go sit in a park. You can sit in a coffee shop and just look out the window and watch people walk by for about an hour or two. You will see some of the most creative things. You'll get some of the greatest ideas. Myself, I always, I'll sit, I'm in New York City. So I'll go sit, maybe in Times Square, maybe in the Village, and I'll sit for a little while and just watch people walk by. And I will get color combinations that I didn't think about before. I'll see patterns in things. I may even see, accessories that I didn't think about trying and maybe want to create based on someone I saw walking in the street carrying it. So just watching people in general is a good way of getting inspired. Because again, remember, the internet does not see everybody. So some of these things that you see in the street may never make it online. So just sitting there and watching and observing and, soaking in everything that comes by you is really great. And I really recommend if you really want to really be on time and trend with things, sitting in public is the best way to do that. Now, the second thing that I like to do is, and this may seem a little weird, I enjoy going to supermarkets and hardware stores. I know that sounds a little weird, but think about when you go to a supermarket. Most of the times when we go to supermarkets, we're there for the basic reason to shop for food. But if you go there with the intent of also being inspired, you'll start to look at things a little bit differently. When I go in there, I look at everything from packaging. I look at the way things are arranged on shelves, how the colors work together when I'm looking at what is on the shelves, and the packaging, what colors they use, the graphics they use, because sometimes that stuff I see may, trigger another idea for me. It may actually give me a concept of doing something that may be in line with the way they packaged an item. One of the things I did for one of my lines previously, I was in a meat market and I thought about, hey, it'd be great if I put my t-shirts in meat wrapping. So basically put it on styrofoam, folding it up and, wrapping it in a clear saran wrap and basically selling shirts the same way you sell meat. That was inspired by being in a supermarket. So you can walk around a supermarket and get all sorts of ideas. It's just that you just have to have your eyes open and your mind set to receive this information. If you're just in there shopping, that's all you're going to see. Now, the same reason as I say I do the supermarket, going in a hardware store, is just as exciting to me. The reason being, if I go, to any well-known hardware store that I'll go in there and I'll walk down aisles and I'll look at anything from nail packaging to, heavy equipment. I'll just look at how they're doing, what their, the casings are, especially like when I said, nails. I'll look at a box of nails and there may be a font on there that I haven't seen before, or they've used the font a certain way that I really like, and it gives me ideas of like, I can try this for myself, or this project I'm working on, I can use this kind of font this way. There's certain information that is added on, certain packaging in a hardware store that's just like, wow, this is really kind of cool how they did this. So I start to use that and start to figure out how can I make that work for what I'm doing. You can be inspired by anything. Just because you're in fashion doesn't mean you have to look at everything that's fashion. You can look at other things outside of that and find a way to reinterpret that to fit to what you're doing. So again, if you go into a Lowe's, and you look at what they have from paint, I go look at the paint, literally, not just the colors. Look at the different paint companies and look at how they actually do their wrappings on their cans. Look what that is. Another year, I did t-shirts in paint cans. I was inspired by going to, Home Depot and Lowe's, and those gave me ideas to do t-shirts in a paint can. I was able to find a place that just made the cans. I found another one that did the wrapping, and that's how I put it out. So the inspiration was there, and it was by being inspired by looking outside of the box. Now, the third one is one that I really enjoy doing also, and it's a little bit off the beaten path, but it's looking at records. Now, we live in a digital age and we all listen to, our music, on our phones. And yeah, we don't have the luxury of looking at albums, but albums have made a resurgence in the market again. People are buying albums and they're starting to put them out. Now, they're not as readily available like they used to be, but in every city, there is a place that has a record boutique. If you just go in there and look at album covers, you'll get so much inspiration. Like, you really get great concepts for photo shoots. You get concepts for just colors again, patterns, way things are done, graphic design, amazing stuff, especially if you look at album covers that were done anywhere around the 60s and 70s, and you look at jazz album covers during that time. If you're coming into like the 80s and 90s, you look at a lot of the rock album covers. Great inspiration for these things. So if you go into a record store and just spend an hour or two just looking through album covers, that will give you a lot of inspiration and a lot of concepts to really build off of. So I implore you to please go find your local record store, and again, just go through what they have. It's a great place to get some ideas. Now, the next one that I like to do is a common one that we also, once again, take for granted. But I like to go to a library or a bookstore. Again, we have our iPads, we have our Kindles, and we read everything on that, and we go to Amazon and we download books. But you know what? If you actually go to a library, you can find tons of things in there. You can find tons of books on fashion, on graphic design, on architecture. Just go to a bookstore. You can go to Barnes and Nobles and, just go to the art section and look at these books. You don't have to buy them. You just go look at them. And the beauty thing about that is that when you look at these books, especially graphic design books, they still put out annual graphic design books. So you can actually see what goes on for the year, what companies got awards and what they got awards for digitally or in print. You can look at these things and see what's going on. So instead of just looking online to look for random things, go get the books. They release them every year and you can find them in Barnes and Nobles. And if you can't, you can find them in your local library and look through them. It will give you some great ideas. You can see things that are being done in other mediums, if it's video or if it's in, cartoons. You can look at that and figure out stuff that you want to use for what you're working on. So again, libraries, bookstores are very key. My last one is one also that is kind of common, but we also take for granted as well, is museums. Museums are a great inspiration for us. And as much as people feel like, going to a museum, it's a lot of old stuff. Yes, but what old is new. And if you look at what it is, you have to just be able to look at the things you see in the museum and be able to reinterpret it for what you want to use it for. Okay, just because it's old doesn't mean you have to use it the way it is presented to you. You can find things in it. If you're looking at something that's dealing with medieval times and you're looking at the armor, there may be something in the armor, a design that you say, hey, I can take that and make that into a pattern. Or you may actually get your theme for your season based on something you've seen in a museum. So you can be inspired by, just the exhibition to give you an idea for your theme line. You may not even be using what's in it, but it will give you a name to put to your line. So museums are always great. And again, there are millions of different types of museums. We have the ice cream museum here. You have the Museum of Illusions. So you don't have to just think of your traditional museums. You can go to these very off the beaten path type of museums to get inspiration. So those are all great ways to really, find new avenues to pulling ideas. Now, the last one is a bonus. And again, it's something that I use a lot because I'm just a big buff of it. But movies are a great way to find little details that you can use in your lines. Now, I'm saying you can find things in current movies, but I like to look at older movies to see things that are, things that I can find in there that I can really use. And again, history with fashion, it always repeats itself. So, if something is trending, suddenly 90s fashion is trending again. If you go and look at 90s movies, when you look at it, don't just look at it for the things it's known for, because that's what most people, if you're doing a 90s theme or if the whole fashion industry is doing 90s theme, everybody's going to go after the mainstream items. But I like to look at movies from those periods and just sit and watch them, because what you'll see is you'll see little things in there that maybe someone who's not the main character, someone who's in the background, may be wearing something that sparks an idea. And you're like, that's a really nice tee that they're wearing. Or I like the way they cut that tee, but what if I took that tee and did this with something more modern today? So don't always look for the surface things. You got to go a little bit deeper. So I like to look at older movies from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Always like to look at them because I get great visions on concepts I want to do. Maybe, again, colorways, patterns, graphics. I can see all that. I mean, especially in the 70s, not even looking at the actual movies, but if you look at the cover art for some of their stuff, it's wild. And I'm like, those are great t-shirt graphics to reimagine and redo. So I get a lot of inspiration for those type of things. I also like to look at, current things and figure out, is there a way to make it more retro? One of the pieces that we did maybe about 2 seasons ago was we were inspired by the Netflix series, The Get Down. And being that it was about hip hop and hip hop in the 70s, there was a particular shirt in there that I saw that I really liked. And I took that shirt and I kind of flipped it and made it into our own thing. We resembled the same thing, but it was a little bit of ours, but I modernized it by, color blocking the shirt, changing the graphics slightly, but it still had the same tongue-in-cheek feel of what was done in the show. So again, that was my inspiration from watching the TV show. I like what it represented and I like how it was done. And I just figured I could find another way to, modernize it and sell it. And it sold well for us. So these are all my suggestions for other ways to find inspiration when you want to design your fashion line, doing your graphics for your line, or even if it's just developing your line and you're looking for somewhere to get another bright idea or just a clearer vision on what you want to do. So again, internet is great and we all use it. I use it, but sometimes just don't rely on it all the time. Sometimes go outside and actually look at with your own eyes things around you to be able to use in your fashion. All right, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys got a lot of information out of this. As always, we do episodes like these twice a week. So until next week, hope you guys do well. Oh, and please leave your comments down below and I'll definitely answer them if you have any questions. But again, until next time, I catch you guys later. Peace.